On March 28, 2025, an officer was in the process of serving a capital murder warrant on a suspect in Harris County, Texas. While conducting a felony stop, the defendant, who was identified by his Texas ID card, pulled up on the officer's perimeter, got out of their motor vehicle, and began walking to the residence where the murder suspect was. The officer's supervisor ordered the defendant to stop and stay right there. The defendant refused and continued to ignore officers while walking towards the residence. The officer's supervisor ordered the defendant to step back multiple times and then grabbed the defendant and took him to the ground.
Him?
Welcome back, Post-Pollock viewers. This is Dave Epstein from the Post-Pollock firm, Roseland, New Jersey. Today, we have for you one of my favorite people. We've done at least one video about him before, and I sort of keep track of him. We're talking about Judge Fleischer down in Houston, Texas. This particular video, it's nice and short, and it's another demonstration of how I want a judge to be. It's been viewed, 3.5 million times, so it's apparently, I've seen it, it's worth viewing. So let's take a look at it, and I'll give you my take.
Sir, you're charged with interference with the duties of a public servant. You're facing up to 6 months in jail and or a $2,000 fine. We are going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you, sir. Yes, sir.
On March 28, 2025, an officer was in the process of serving a capital murder warrant on a suspect in Harris County, Texas. While conducting a felony stop, the defendant, who was identified by his Texas ID card, pulled up on the officer's perimeter, got out of their motor vehicle, and began walking to the residence where the murder suspect was. The officer's supervisor ordered the defendant to stop and stay right there. The defendant refused and continued to ignore officers while walking towards the residence. The officer's supervisor ordered the defendant to step back multiple times and then grabbed the defendant and took him to the ground.
Him?
Yes, Your Honor.
Was he the capital murder suspect?
No, Your Honor.
I lived there. Stop. Oh, sorry.
I believe that they were in the process of serving a warrant on someone else at the residence, and that's when they came in contact with the defendant.
Okay.
Ordered him to stop. He refused to stop going towards the residence, Your Honor.
Served the warrant. What ended up happening?
Looks like after refusing commands, there was a brief struggle where he was detained.
Was the murder suspect there?
I'm not sure, Your Honor. It's not said. I have no further facts that show if the warrant was complete on the warrant or not, Your Honor, or completed at the time. I just believe they were in the process and believed him to be at the residence. And that's been this incident.
Read it again. If you don't mind.
Yes, Your Honor. On March 28, 2025, the law enforcement officer and Squad 5 of the Houston Police Department's gang division served a capital murder warrant for a suspect observed inside a truck at a nearby residence. While conducting a felony stop, the defendant, who is identified by his Texas ID card, pulled up on the perimeter, got out of the vehicle, walked to the sidewalk, and began walking to the residence where the murder suspect was. The supervisor then ordered the defendant to stop and to stay right there. The defendant refused and continued ignoring officers and walking towards the residence. The supervisor ordered him to step back multiple times, but the defendant once again ignored the officers. The law enforcement officer grabbed the defendant and made him off balance and took him to the ground.
Okay, so now, but when you first started, you said they were going to a capital murder suspect in a car.
Yes, Your Honor. That's what. So I was originally reading the summary. I'm going straight from the gems now, Your Honor. It looks like the suspect was observed inside a truck at a nearby residence.
So the suspect is not even in the residence. No.
Then they later state that the suspect, that the defendant here was walking towards the residence where the murder suspect was. I'm not sure, Your Honor. I have nothing for that.
I find no probable cause in your case. Just be careful, man. When you get into a pissing match with
I understand.
who's going to win,
They are. I understand.
no.
Yes, sir.
All right. Hanny, Did that, please.
Okay, folks, now you have it there. Judge Fleischer does it again. Justice delayed is justice denied, and he does it fast. It was an interesting story there in that, but it's a probable cause hearing what they're having. Just so you know, when someone is arrested, it's not necessarily automatic in all states, but you do have to have probable cause to arrest and charge somebody. In many courts, they automatically have a hearing to determine whether probable cause exists. It's not always the case, but usually that's what happens. So, and that's what a lot of what these videos with Judge Fleischer and other judges are, where they're talking about why they're detaining them and looking at them. And in general, you rarely see a judge find no probable cause. I see Judge Fleischer do it a lot, and I applaud him for it because I don't think enough judges do it enough. But this one was pretty sketchy. I mean, you know, the guy is, and I'm being kind to the police, the guy's walking towards a house. It wasn't clear, that prosecutor wasn't clear. It sounded like he said that the suspect was in a car, but they said this was the suspect's house. I have no idea what happened, and I frankly don't think the prosecutor did either. Now, in fairness to prosecutors, I saw some of the comments on this video, like, these guys got to be idiots. Don't they know their cases? Well, the problem is these guys have 10 million cases to handle, and it's probable cause day or hearing day, and some young DA is handed a stack this big of files, and they start running through them. They have a write-up, probably from someone else in the office, maybe even by an investigator, usually by an investigator, and they have to read it off, and they don't have the opportunity, really, to sit down and read the whole thing and make sure they have probable cause. They're also under a lot of pressure. You know, if they have an instance where a guy got into, here they said, a struggle with the police, you can become very unpopular. I don't see probable cause. I'm not bringing this one. I'm going to move to dismiss on the state's end. God forbid. But that's what should happen. But Judge Fleischer called it the right way. You are not required, you're required to respond to a lawful order of a police officer. This guy is walking onto his property and they say stop. I'll assume that everything they said is true and he didn't stop and he ignored them and then maybe even struggled with them. Although I would love to hear this guy's story, what anybody else saw when they were standing there watching. But he's lawfully on his property. They got a warrant for somebody. It's not clear it's for the house or the car. And that is a huge distinction when it comes to the establishing probable cause and acting on a warrant. So it wasn't clear to me at all, and the prosecutor wasn't clear, but Judge Fleischer was clear that this guy was on his property going into his house. He did not hear what sounded like a lawful order. But in classic Judge Fleischer style, he also looked at the defendant, and to his credit, the defendant said, yeah, you're right. He said, you got to be careful. Yes, I'm letting you go because I don't think you did anything wrong. But when the police say stop, say why. What's going on? This is my house. Just say that. And that would have probably diffused things unless they thought you were the murder suspect. But then again, if they did, what kind of description do they have? They're going for a murder suspect and they don't know what he looks like? That little bit of advice was good too. Folks, yes, we all want to exercise our rights, and if the police violate those rights, everybody wants to file a civil rights suit, and maybe you got a good one. But if it's not going to be much skin off your teeth, just turn around and say, hey, I live here. What's the problem? And if they keep going at you then, and they all presumably had body camera on, then they're really in trouble. Now they've lost the case already. They've never even got it. I don't even know if they got it to a grand jury. Probably not. That's it. Yeah, actually, with the charge they gave him was watered down. It was obstructing an officer, which probably wouldn't go to a grand jury. It's probably a misdemeanor, a high misdemeanor, and it doesn't carry a significant amount of jail time. So anyway, once again, for those of you who like Judge Fleischer, I love the guy. I wish we had a lot more judges like him. This was a good one. This is one of his better ones. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something more from Judge Fleischer than me. And please hit like and subscribe, and please leave your comments. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Dave Epstein signing off for Post Pollock. Thank you.